Welcome to another video critique of facilitated communication.
Why is it that most of the time, most of the autistic individuals are not looking at the keyboard?
Today we'll be analyzing video clips from the film Makayla's Voice, A Letter to the World for facilitator cueing. Netflix describes the film like this. A teen with autism unlocks a joyous world of self-expression as she shares her voice for the first time using a letterboard in the short documentary. What they fail to mention is that Makayla is being subjected to a discredited technique called facilitated communication. Proponents erroneously think that if the facilitator holds the letterboard in the air, they can't cue their clients. The FC sessions in the film are quick, but there is enough information to raise red flags about facilitator influence over letter selection. The format used throughout this video critique is to first show the unedited clip followed by the annotated version, highlighting facilitator behaviors that are likely to influence letter selection. Hovering finger over the letterboard. In this first clip, it appears Makayla hovers her finger over the letterboard as the facilitator moves the board in the air to help with letter selection. It's likely the facilitator is not consciously aware of the extent to which she moves the board, left to right, up and down, backwards and forwards, to help Makayla select the target letters. In this clip, Makayla's finger hovers around the letter N. Here is the clip again, but slowed down and zoomed in. In this clip, the facilitator moves the letterboard around in the air. I've added lines to show that the board is not stable. In this clip, the board moves as well. Here it is again with the lines drawn. In this clip, Makayla again seems to hover her finger over the letters while the board moves in the air. Here's the annotated version. The letter sequence appears to be UTS-STR. Question. If Makayla knows how to recognize letters and how to spell words, then why does she need to hover her finger over the letterboard instead of choosing the letters directly? Accuracy of letter selection. Three issues regarding accuracy of letter selection arise when facilitators use a plastic letterboard. First, does the individual touch directly on the letter or in the spaces between the letters? Second, does this action match the letters called out by the facilitator? And third, does the sequence of letters make sense? In clip 2, we can't know what the facilitator is saying. It's not part of the film. But after some initial hovering, Makayla appears to select the letters I, C, K, possibly A and B. It's hard to tell whether she touched the A or just hovered over the letter. Question. It appears that Makayla has the fine and gross motor ability to select individual letters independently. She's also seen here interacting with the iPad independently. So why does she need a facilitator to hold the letterboard for her? Facilitator cueing is reduced, but not eliminated, when letterboards are on a stable surface. Who controls access to the letterboard? With legitimate evidence-based augmentative and alternative communication, the individual using AAC controls when he or she interacts with the communication device. With facilitator-dependent techniques like FC, the facilitator controls when the typing session starts and stops by offering the letterboard to the individual or taking it away to reset or start a new word. Question. If Makayla's communication is independent, why can't she interact with the letterboard by herself? Why does she need a facilitator to tell her when to start and stop choosing letters? Vocal cues, head nods, and hand signals. At the end of the video, we catch a glimpse of other cues the facilitator uses besides moving the board in the air. These are arguably more deliberate than other cues we've looked at so far. With vocal cues, the facilitator uses the word and or then to signal to the client to keep searching for letters. Often the facilitator's voice will go up to signal to the client to keep going, and her voice will go down to signal the end of a word. Listen to how the facilitator says H then, O then, during the spelling of the word author.
H then, O and, author.
You want to be an author?
At the tail end of the clip, you can also see the facilitator flick her finger to signal where on the letterboard to point. Most of the time, observers are either looking at the letterboard or at the individual being facilitated and miss the facilitator cues.
H then, O and, author.
You want to be an author?
The facilitator is using hand signals here too. Can you detect them? Here's the same clip with a mask to direct your attention to the facilitator's movements. Now that you know where to direct your attention, can you detect the hand signals in this clip? Here it is again with a mask to direct your attention to the facilitator's behaviors. And finally, let's return to a previous clip and watch the head movements of the facilitator and the family members. You'll see they all have their eyes focused on the letterboard and cannot help but nod when Makayla nears or touches target letters. It's not possible to tell if these movements influence Makayla's choice of letters because we can't see the letterboard. However, these are the types of movements that raise red flags about facilitator influence. First, the facilitator. Now let's focus on the father's movements. Now the movements of the family member on Makayla's left. Now watch the facilitator and observers at the same time. Their movements are synchronized. Did you see them all nod and/or lift their heads at the same time? These are likely non-conscious movements and can serve as visual cues to the individual being facilitated. Ideomotor response or clever hands effect. These non-conscious movements fit into a category of cueing known as the clever hands effect or the ideomotor response, and was studied by researcher Amiko Kazuka in relation to FC in a 1997 article titled "The Role of Touch in Facilitated Communication." Links to this and other articles regarding the ideomotor response are in the description box below this video. Basically, these non-conscious movements work like the hot and cold children's game, where an object is hidden and the child is asked to find the object by moving through a room. If the child moves away from the object, he is told he is cold. As the child moves closer to the hidden object, he is told he is getting warmer. And when he's right next to the object, he is told he is hot. These directions eventually help him find the hidden object. With FC, the hidden object is a target letter that the facilitator knows because she's literate and is constantly looking at the letterboard. The facilitator's body tenses up, often imperceptibly to the naked eye, if the person being facilitated hovers their finger over the letterboard, but moves their finger away from the target letter. However, if the person's hovering finger goes toward the target letter, the facilitator's or observer's body relaxes slightly. The facilitated person learns with time, practice, and positive reinforcements by the facilitator to move their finger around the board until getting a signal, head nod, shift in body weight, or other cue from the facilitator that it's okay to touch the board. The facilitator's or observer's body relaxes when the target letter is selected, and he or she will often nod, lift their head, sit up straighter, and/or smile. This form of behavior modification can teach the individual being facilitated to point on cue, and with time and practice, the person being facilitated learns to respond quickly to the cues, and the movements can appear to be free from facilitator control, even if he or she does not have the language or literacy skills to recognize letters or spell. Summary. Today's video focused on clips from the 2024 film Makayla's Voice, where we discovered facilitator behaviors that raise questions about FC authorship. Although often inadvertent, facilitator cueing is likely when facilitators hold the letterboard in the air, control access to the letterboard, use vocal inflections or hand signals to direct their client where to touch on the board, move their bodies, nod, shift their body weight to signal where to touch on the letterboard. And remember, not all facilitator cues are verbal and may be non-conscious. Although it is not possible to determine Makayla's language or literacy skills from a video, the fact that she hovers her finger over the letterboard instead of directly selecting letters may indicate that she does not recognize her letters or know how to spell, and is completely dependent on the facilitator to know where to touch on the board. Because, as we've learned, facilitator cueing can be subtle, the best way to determine authorship is not through observation, but through reliably controlled testing designed to rule in or rule out facilitator influence over letter selection. The science. To date, there's no scientifically rigorous evidence to prove facilitated communication, spelling to communicate, rapid prompting method, or any of their variants produce independent communication. Controlled studies show that facilitators, not their clients, are producing the typed messages. FC has many names, including, but not limited to, supported typing, spelling to communicate, rapid prompting method, speller's method, informative pointing. Many organizations oppose the use of facilitator-reliant techniques. These include, but are not limited to, American Speech-Language Hearing Association, American Association on Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, American Psychological Association, Association for Behavior Analysis, Association for Science in Autism Treatment. This educational video is intended to draw attention to the problem of facilitator cueing in a technique called facilitated communication. Criticisms of the technique are not directed at individuals being subjected to its use. For more information about FC, please visit facilitatedcommunication.org. Thank you for watching until the very end. Please subscribe, like, share, and comment to help grow this project. And remember, FC is not science.